Now, this is usually the last thing everyone thinks about, and I've observed this all the way from working with dressage horses up to Prix St. George. I've observed this with thoroughbred flat race horses, is your state. Now, what do I mean by state? Because it's not the state of a country. I'm talking about your nervous system. So horses have a nervous system, we have a nervous system. What is a state of our nervous system when we are working and choosing to train, ride, just develop a better partnership with our horse? What is the state we're bringing to the day? This can determine everything, and I genuinely feel like it's the biggest missing link when it comes to horse-rider partnership, is understanding your state and knowing what to do about it. So if you come to your horse very stressed, tense, maybe you had a really bad car journey and you got stuck in traffic or someone cut you up, which made you late, and it's affected how you felt. So you arrive at your horse feeling quite anxious and you're like, let's just get on with it. And that kind of short, choppy presentation of your words, but also your behaviors might be quite quick, might be quite rapid with your hand movements. I feel like I'm rapping here. That all affects your horse because they are hardwired for safety. Most people think that when it comes to communication with our horses, we need to be doing more. The newest strategy, the newest trainer, the lesson, change the saddle, whatever it is, it's got to be a new strategy, right? But in over 30 years of working with horses, from Olympic level show jumpers to happy hackers, I've noticed a pattern. And this pattern is that strategy is usually the last place when it comes to communication with our horses. Today, I'm going to be sharing the 3S ways of communicating with your horse, starting with the one you should not do. And this really reminds me of a horse that I was working with in Liverpool about 2 years ago now. Beautiful, big, warm blood mare, like just captivated with her presence the minute you walked into the arena. And something was off. Listening to the rider, listening to the saddle fitter, the physio, the vet, the farrier, everything had been thrown at this horse. And when I mean thrown, I mean tried their best. Every professional is trying their best with the tools and the knowledge they have. But with this mare, it wasn't working. She was still showing the same signs. And for her and the rider, it was like she was like a plank of wood. Have you ever sat on a horse where you put your legs on and you want to either go left or right, and it's like you're turning on a sixpence because there's no suppleness in the body, there's no give in the body. It's like sat on a plank of wood is how I would describe it. And the rider had been struggling with this for over 10 years. Despite having the entire body ruled out for pain, the mare was still showing this. So what on earth was going on? Now, I really have to put this point across that the owner and everyone in the paraprofessional team were genuinely trying their best. The thing about a new strategy is that whether it's a new saddle, a new bit, a new training regime, whatever it is that you're applying more of, if there is already tension there, it can create more confusion in an already confused and what I call dysregulated body. So usually the more tools, the more tension. And communication isn't about more control. It is genuinely about clarity. So when we have what I define as disciplined communication with our horses, the game changes. The partnership changes. So the third S, and this is the one that I go to at the very end before the two other S's, is strategy. So what's the middle S? The middle S refers to the story. Now this is the story that we as riders bring to our horses. That can be the story of our past horse that we're bringing in, that maybe there's some underlying fear, anxiety, something hidden under the surface that we are on the outskirts saying, we're fine, we're happy, everything's good. But then we have these areas of riding our horse which feel so blocked and resistant. And you think to yourself, what is going on? And then you remember, well, I had the same feeling with my other horse. And that's the story part. The story part can also be referred to when it comes to your horse. So if you've recently bought a horse and they've come with quite a unique or quite an interesting story, that maybe they had a traumatic loading incident, or maybe they had an issue with an old owner, and that you've bought this horse thinking it's a new fresh start, but then subconsciously when you're handling that horse, you're remembering what the old owner said, or what happened in the past. And again, if we're bringing that story that we're telling ourselves, that we are believing to be true, because remember, everything that we believe to be true is our perception, it's not necessarily the truth. Just think about that for a moment. So if two people were sat watching a movie and they both told you at the end what they believed the storyline would be, who is right? Person one or person two? No one is right. It's their perception of that movie, and that's usually influenced by their belief system and what they bring and what they believe to be true. And this is so important when it comes to horses. I don't know if you've seen this, but I watch, different episodes, whether it's on YouTube or even I've experienced this myself, where, say, an owner will start to tell me the story about their horse, and I will politely say, "Don't tell me yet." I'm doing that for two reasons. One is I don't want to become biased and influenced by what the owner has said to be true in their perception, but I also want to look at the horse with a fresh, clean state. Now, obviously, I'm going to bring my stories because they are wired into my brain, and I have a strategy to help me with that. But that is what I mean by your story. So, our stories are very powerful if we choose to make them good or bad. So, by that, I mean in every single story, whether there's been heartache, pain, and loss, how you carry that story around with you affects every other interaction in your life, whether it's with horses or with people. And the power of re-looking at your story experiences and thinking to yourself, okay, that might have been a really tough time. It might have been heartbreak. There might have been a lot of loss in it. But what have I learned from that? And if you can rewire your brain's understanding of that story and take that forward into life, you will have a much easier life because let's face it, hardship is going to come to us in any aspect, whether we are choosing to have a horse, not have a horse, whether we are choosing to have a family, not have a family. There are heartaches in everything, there's pain in everything. So choose your pain, choose your heartache, and make the most of that as you can. That is what I define as the second essence story. And that's actually the second part that I work with when I'm working with women riders online. They are hardwired to understand what is going on in their environment and if it's safe for them to be in it, or if they need to flight and escape and move out. So if we're bringing the kind of energy of like fast moving hands, fast talking, maybe we're a little bit loud in how we show up, that state, the horses aren't looking at our language, but they are definitely looking at our body language and our nervous system. And if we bring that to our horses, especially if you have you have different personalities of horses, and you might have a horse that's really needs a very calm environment, and you bring that to them, and then you wonder why they're running away from you or they're moving away from you in the stable or in the field. We need to understand that actually it could be us, it could be our state. Now, it could also be your horse's state, but we have a choice to really determine how that lesson, training session, competition goes if we choose to work on our state and what we're actually bringing to the table, what we're bringing to the relationship. So horses really don't respond to the instructions as much as we wish they would, because that's probably our logical thinking, right? Do this, do this, do this. They actually respond to our state. And that could be as simple as you asking them to do a question and you moving on to the next question without actually letting their nervous system process what you've just asked. By all that you have to do is potentially stepping away and allowing that moment of pause, observation in the brain, in the body for the horse is a chance to process, to understand what that question was. Because if we allow the horse to just understand that by us slowing down and allow them to take it on in their body, it becomes ingrained and it becomes more natural. So by that I mean, instead of you feeling like I'm having to repeat the same friggin' question to my horse, why don't they understand it? It could be because of your state, and it could be that in that state, when you are, especially I've been here and I can get this, feel this way, when you're feeling a little bit anxious and you're feeling a bit annoyed, and you bring that to your horse without I can actually see it unfolding. I can see what's happening. And then I'm like, Nika, that was your fault. And if we choose to ignore that, it can build up and then get to a point where we have a horse that we don't understand anything what's going on. Whereas if we strip it all down, strip all the strategies away and all the stories and just be present with your horse, be aware of the state that you're in, there's a real powerful shift in communication between you and the horse. And I've noticed this whether I'm riding horses, whether I'm doing groundwork with the horses, or whether I'm treating them from a chiropractic therapy perspective. There is a huge, huge power in knowing and understanding what state I'm bringing to the day. So let's just go through all of these. Most people start with a strategy, the story, then they go to their state. My recommendation to really understand what's going on with your horse and how they communicate is to start with your state, then your story, and then the strategy. If you haven't already, don't forget to give me a follow and subscribe. And if you have any comments, questions, just put them down below.